I'm sorry that the mic that we sent you didn't work out.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, it is what it is.
We live and we learn.
We do.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm your guinea pig.
The
Let's
joys
do it.
of being the first guest.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I did go back and watch the reveal of Penelope to Colin because I thought maybe I fell asleep. It's bad.
Oh, I definitely fell asleep during some of it.
Well, y'all know I fell asleep for like a whole ass episode.
I watched all of it yesterday, and I have some important questions when we get to it.
Last night, I rewatched that scene, the reveal, and the wedding because I missed the wedding. And I'm like, whew. Okay. All right, Ryan, take it away.
We're ready.
We are so ready.
Okay. Take two.
Take two. Take three.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Once More Unhinged, our weekly chat show where we get together and talk about what we're reading, what we're listening to, what we're engaging with this week. I'm Ryan something.
And I'm Lady Jenniferington.
Lady Boofington.
Oh, very dare you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yes.
Yes.
It's an exciting
day. It's an exciting episode for us.
It is. And I mean, I feel like we should start introducing ourselves as viral TikTok stars. Yeah.
His lordship, the viral TikTok star, Mr. Ryan something.
That's going to go on your eulogy.
And her ladyship, Lady Jenny Boofington. Lady Jenny Katz.
Lady Katzington. Yeah, so our Bridgerton TikTok got some heat. It was exciting.
It's still climbing.
Slowly, so if you haven't watched, go to our TikTok.
Please.
Once More Podcast.
We are the carriage drivers.
We are. And may I say, some of our finest work.
And may I say, I have a follow-up idea.
Oh, can't wait. Okay. So as you might have figured out, we are here today to talk about Bridgerton Season 3, Part 2. But it's not just us today, Ryan.
It's not. Who's with us?
So exciting. So gather round, dearest gentle listeners, for Lady Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2 debrief that's sharper than Lady Whistledown's gossip column.
Woof.
Woof. Today, we are joined by a very special guest. She is a Bridgerton expert, an OG Julia Quinn book reader, and she happens to be one of our favorite people in the whole wide world, Mevhash Doerr. Welcome, Mevhash.
Welcome, my pirate friend.
Hi. Not pirate.
Our matey.
We just evolved into a bunch of pirate language.
Hey, you wanted to be a guest. This is what it's like.
Welcome to Unhinged. Mevhash is one of our dearest friends, as we mentioned. We met through our kids' school. Our kids go to the same school, and we joined a book club that had about 45 other people in it at one point. And we get along so well. I love you so much. And Ryan and I have been friends, as you guys know, for over 10 years. 3 of us, was it the pirate show that we started watching together? I can't remember, but it was basically we were having separate conversations about the Buccaneers. And I was like, wait a second, Ryan wants to watch this. You want to watch this? Let's watch it together.
Boy, did we.
We watched.
What a riveting show.
One episode. It was not
How did we make it through one episode?
All the wine, I think.
Yeah.
Because I will never forget the cake walking by and that girl going, cake.
I blocked it out.
Okay. And we also all watched Saltburn together. So we have a very strong bond.
We did.
Yeah.
We're trauma bonded at the point.
In the theater. A Saltburn in theater experience.
Yes. And just a bit of a reveal. Mevhash is the M, the mysterious M we reference in Unhinged and over on Once More.
Lady M.
Lady M, you are the Lady Whistledown of the Once More universe. So,
I've been unmasked.
Oh, yes. You're cloaked and you're in a seedy part of town in your carriage.
Sounds exciting. Don't threaten her with a good time.
So before we get into Bridgerton, could you give us a little bit of your history with Julia Quinn, her novels, and the Bridgerton novels? As I know you've read all of them multiple times. I have never read any of them. I want to. I've got the massive TBR pile, and you haven't read any, right?
I've not, no.
Okay, so Mevhash, give us the history.
Take it away.
Okay. So my history with Julia Quinn goes back more than 24 years. I was a young, naive college student in 1999 when I first discovered Julia Quinn's book, and she had not yet released the first Bridgerton novel. I read one of her other novels first, and I really loved the way that she wrote. It really read like a rom-com set in another time period, and it really took you back, but it was so funny, and that's what really spoke to me. So I just kept finding more and more of her books. I used Amazon for what it was initially intended, which was to find books. And then I found, I know,
Amazon
I'm aging
was a
myself.
bookstore.
Bezos, how far you have fallen?
Oh, far. Now I'm finding all sorts of crap on Amazon. But back in the day, I was able to find all these secondhand booksellers that had these like old novels that she had written back in like 95. And so I gathered all of the money that I had and I just started buying her old books. And then 2000 hit and she released her first Bridgerton novel. And that was The Duke and I. And I just read every single book as she released them. And she released them pretty quick. I mean, it was like once a year for, 8 years. And then there have been spinoffs since then. Since the show has started, she has not written another book other than the Queen Charlotte book that she wrote in tandem with Shonda Rhimes, which, full disclosure, I've not read that book.
I didn't even know there was a book. I thought that was fully just for the show. They wrote a book for that as well?
Yeah, so I think since the book pretty much follows what the series is, but the two of them wrote it together. I didn't read it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But yes, yeah, I just have such a huge to be read pile that was another book that I didn't necessarily want to add to the mix. But at some point I probably will pick it up, but it wasn't calling to me. The show called to me, but the book didn't necessarily feel important at the time. But yeah, I've reread the series itself several times over. There are certain books I skip in the series because I just don't like them. But overall, I've read that entire series probably, I don't know, 10, 15 times at least. And the book that this particular series was based on, I've read in excess of 20 times. It is my comfort read. I go to that book when I'm feeling moody and can't find a book on my vast array of bookshelves that I have around the house. I'll go back to that book. I go back to it every single time because I just really love those two characters and the way that their story plays out in the novel. And I was very much looking forward to the particular season of Bridgerton because I love those two characters so much.
Yeah, I know you've loved Bridgerton. You and your sister and your friends in the past, right, have done the Airbnb Bridgerton, where you get the Airbnb and you guys just binge the whole season.
So season 1, my sister and I just got together. They released season 1 during COVID. And so she was, of course, in our little COVID bubble. And so I was home. We got wine. We watched it together when they released it, I think on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. That was the only year that we have not met with my husband's family. Normally we spend Christmas with my husband's family because they celebrate Christmas and mine does not. But that year, because of COVID, we couldn't spend it with their family. So we happened to be at home. So it was great that I got to share that with my sister because she also has read these novels several times over. And so we were just so excited because 20 plus years ago, we never could have imagined that Netflix would be adapting this beloved series of books into a show. We just couldn't have even thought of it because of how the romance genre kind of has been seen in the past, or it's kind of changed a little bit, but there are still people who kind of look down on the romance genre in particular. But if you actually look at the numbers, romance novels in particular have helped bolster the publishing industry for many years. So I think a lot of people kind of thought that this could take off, especially with Downton Abbey having been so popular and needing something to fit into that space. Bridgerton just hit like right at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we even recorded our episode for the podcast, I've talked to you a lot about season 2 and season 3, and you're kind of amazing at giving all the book connections and the differences, but also for season 2, you know, cultural experiences related to Kate and her family. And we kind of knew even before we started Unhinged that when we talked about Bridgerton, especially, we wanted you on. So it's so exciting to have you as our first guest.
Yeah, thank you for being here to
so
add some perspective and some background.
Yeah. Very interested to know your thoughts on this back half, given that this is your favorite book. So, all right, let's get into it, guys. Okay.
Today, we will be discussing the second half of Bridgerton season 3, as well as events from season 1 and 2, as well as the Queen Charlotte series.
Ooh.
So, there'll be more spoilers than shots of Penelope Featherington panting. You've been warned.
I probably could have gone to something else, but that's all I could think of because is her corset too tight? She's breathing heavily a lot.
All of their corsets are too tight. It was the Regency
but hers
era.
in particular.
Yes. I'm like,
although,
you know, busty gal.
She's a busty gal.
I get it.
She's a busty gal and heaving bosom.
That's very Regency romance novel, a heaving bosom.
She really took it to heart, guys.
Okay. So, as we've already said, we were talking about Bridgerton, season 3, part 2, but a little background. This season had 8 episodes in total, and they were split into 2 parts.
Yes.
First 4 dropped May 16th, 2024, and the remaining 4 on June 13th, 2024. And the showrunner is new this season. It's Jess Brownwell taking over from Chris Van Dusen, who I learned is not the Chris Van Dusen who illustrates the Mercy Watson children's novels.
There's 2 of them.
Okay.
That is wild. Okay. So before we get into part 2, let's get into some quick thoughts about part 1. We did a whole episode on it. You can go find it in your podcast feed. But just to kind of refresh everyone, you know, I really enjoyed part 1. I watched it with you and Hiba. Well, I watched a couple episodes before I fell asleep on your couch. I'm sorry, I watched it with you and your sister. I don't know if Hiba wants to be name dropped. But yeah, I watched it with you and your sister Hiba, 2 episodes, and I fell asleep on the couch, which I did the other night when all 3 of us watched it. So that's on theme for me. I really liked it. I like Nicola Coughlan so much, and I'm starting to realize maybe my love of Nicola Coughlan is clouding my opinion on some of season 3. So I'm going to kind of unpack that. I liked her glow up. It's so nice to see her in nice colors, not the citrus lemon colors anymore. And it was the first 4 episodes I thought were really strong, not unproblematic. I did notice the costuming looking a little funky. You notice the sets, like some of it is just straight wallpaper. The production value looked different. I liked Francesca in the first 4. You know, they weren't, we're going to get into that, but I thought it was interesting. She wasn't a Daphne who was just the most beautiful, the most debutante-esque. You know, she was so excited to be presented. She's very excited. Then you get Eloise, who's like, nah, no, I don't want to do this. It's not my life. You had Francesca come up, who was kind of like, sure, I'll go along. It might be nice to find a husband. Sure. I liked her romance with Lord Kilmartin. That scene of them at the ball where they go walk outside is so sweet.
Oh, it's lovely.
So, I mean, I really liked it. I don't necessarily share that opinion for part 2, but we'll get into that. All right. What are y'all's thoughts?
I liked part 1, as we discussed on the podcast before. And as I've discussed with both of you, there were elements of it that I enjoyed. What I didn't like was, again, the production value where they were literally using backdrops as sets like you would on a stage, which was a little awkward. And the quote unquote slow burn between Penelope and Colin, again, in my mind, for part 1 was just hard to swallow. It was hard to believe. I didn't see the chemistry between these two characters the way that I saw it in previous seasons between the main romantic leads, where there was a bit more of the building of that relationship. And quite frankly, I've seen it in other characters this season who are not the main characters, like Francesca and Lord Kilmartin, and even Lady Bridgerton and Lady Danbury's brother. So that was kind of my beef with part one. And I talked to both of you about this, and Mevhash, you were great at adding perspective on what we should be expecting from these characters based upon the books versus what we're seeing based upon how it was adapted for television. And I'm hoping that maybe you can jump in and give us a little bit of background on part one and some of the feedback that we had.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually enjoyed part one. Part one I thought felt very, very strong compared to where we're going to get to in part two here in a little bit. I enjoyed the interaction between Colin and Penelope, and I really enjoyed seeing Colin kind of floundering a bit. Ryan, I know what you're saying about not feeling that kind of build up between Colin and Penelope, or really feeling that chemistry between those two. This particular novel that this was adapted from was, in romance terms, a friends to lovers trope. And so really it's about Colin and Penelope have been friends for many, many years, supposedly. And she has always had this unrequited love for him. He has never seen her as anything but Penelope, the sister of his sister, or the friend of his sister. So part of it was trying to grow that. And I think that the problem that I've kind of had with this series, just generally overall, is that they haven't done a great job, in my perspective, of building that relationship. When you look at the way that the novels were released, it was Daphne, then Antony's story, then Benedict's story. And then between Benedict's story and Colin's story, it's a 10-year time jump. And that the big scene that happens at the end of season 2, when they're at the Featherington ball and Penelope overhears Colin talking to his Regency bros and talking about how he would never court Penelope. That in the books happened at the Bridgerton home. Penelope is visiting Eloise, and she overhears him talking to his brothers. And she
a devastating thing to hear nonetheless.
Yes.
Devastating thing to overhear, but she actually confronts him in that moment. She's in their home.
Oh,
she's
I love
actually
that.
leaving. Yeah, she's in their home. She's leaving the home to go back to her own house. She overhears them and she confronts them, and she's like, I didn't ask you to marry me. No one asked you to marry me. No one's asking for that. And of course he kind of flounders or whatever, and there's, some exchange, and she ends up leaving. And there's a 10-year time jump between when that happened and when the beginning of the next book starts. So in 10 years, Penelope has grown, right? She's only 18 in that book. And by the time we reunite with this couple, she's 28 years old. She's very much just firmly on the shelf, and she's very much who she wants to be. And she has continued to spend time with the Bridgertons, and you see that because you've been reading the books, right? But in the show, they don't show that. They kind of put themselves in a corner by not only having no time jump, but also having the key relationship between the Bridgertons and the Featheringtons break at the end of season 2, because Eloise finds out that Penelope is Lady Whistledown, and their relationship is broken at that point. And so she's not spending time with the Bridgertons. She's not seeing Colin when he comes back. Of course, Colin has only been gone for, 2-3 months before he comes back for the next season.
But he's gotten so sturdy.
It only took, 3 months in Paris and doing God knows what to really build those abs up, right?
Or who?
So I feel like we didn't get the buildup of what their friendship really could be. Now, season 3, the first 4 episodes, they kind of tried to show that. but how much more could they have achieved if they had waited just one season? Now, you know, they make their decisions based on a whole lot of things, so I can't fault them for wanting to kind of strike when the iron is hot, knowing that Nicola is highly in demand. She's very popular right now, and she was, even before she walked in to Bridgerton, she was already doing Dairy Girls at the time. And so,
yeah,
you know, they probably were like, how long do we even have her? Let's get the story going. Um, but I feel like their story, unfortunately, was put kind of in the back burner when we get to the back half of the season, in service to Benedict and Francesca, which I think those developments really are going to help them when we go into later seasons, because we will have been with these characters for so long.
Yeah, I like, as you're talking, you know, again, we're all Monday morning quarterbacking. We don't know what goes into all the production stuff, but oh, you don't think?
Madam.
Oh, look, I use
we are professionals.
Sports reference. Yeah. So I feel like, yeah, I mean, I went in when we had our first discussion. I was like, no, I see it, because Penelope's been pining after him. I see the connection there, because I guess I was almost assuming we were going to get more of it. I mean, I didn't realize they were going to get married this quick. Like, this back half was so rushed. And I feel like if they could have had Benedict's story be this season, and in the background, Penelope and Colin were mending their relationship, mending their friendship,
continue to grow that.
Yes. And then in season 4, get
promenade a little bit.
Yeah, because you know, if you're trying to sell them as friends with this deep connection, yes, you need that space.
Sure.
Whereas if you have Benedict, he meets somebody in the books, right, that he doesn't know previously. So you do what you do with Daphne and Simon. You have the whole season be about these two people who are new coming together, end it, and then the background story could be
agreed
Colin and Penn mending that fence and really growing into that friendship. And then next season, love, whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
agreed. I wish they had stuck with the actual chronology of the books, because I think they had already kind of laid the groundwork for where Benedict is even at in season 3, right? We see that Benedict kind of open to anybody in a relationship. I kind of really loved that, because his character very much was not a Lothario or Rake or whatever. He wasn't sleeping around a bunch in the books necessarily. And so they had already laid the groundwork that he was kind of fluid about his sexuality in the show. And so season 3 could have very well been more of him meeting somebody and balancing the fact that he's fluid with someone he might want to be more committed to.
Yeah, that could have been great. And like, I don't understand why they needed to have Colin and Penn, Francesca and Kilmartin, and Benedict and Tilly, and that whole situation. That was too much happening.
Tilly and Mr. Juarez. And then also you've got Lady.
Someone described him on Reddit as Count Chocula, and I can't see it.
No.
Yeah, someone on Reddit said that is Count Chocula looking ass, and I cannot unsee it.
Mr. Suarez.
Okay, yeah, there was just, with Benedict and Tilly and Mr. Suarez, that whole thing, it's all fine, but I don't think they needed to have Francesca come out this season. It's already jarring that there's a new ass.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry. Yeah. But I mean, they could have had that next season, right? It was just, there was too much happening. Or if she's making her debut, they gave it was all over. It was too overstuffed. And I think that's the word you use in your notes, and I've seen it everywhere too. It's like, there's too much happening to get invested in Colin and Penn for me at the back half.
There were all of these side characters and stories that were going on. And like you were alluding to, Mevhash, some of it has been sped up because of the chronological order of the books and the series and how they're trying to make this work for television. But it feels a bit rushed. I love some of these relationships. I want to get to know some of these characters a bit more, but I feel like we are kind of lost. I'm like, who should I be looking at? Am I looking at Penelope and Colin? Because that seems to be a pretty big storyline. But at the same time, I'm invested in Francesca and her happiness. And at the same time, I'm interested in what's going to happen with Eloise. And at the same time, Lady Bridgerton is having a pretty spicy little tete-a-tete with her best friend's brother. and I want that for her. And so it's like I want all of these things, but I just kind of wonder where the show is headed.
Yeah.
Where are we going from here?
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like, the first season, like you said, it's focused so much on Daphne and Simon, and each of the books are that way, right? They just focus on the couple, and then yes, because they had time to build that chemistry, right? Like
it was
they were at the
believable.
museum. Yes, it was so believable. Whereas the last two seasons, absolutely, I feel like the second half of both seasons felt very, very rushed. You get to be like the main bone of contention, and then suddenly the resolution comes in episode 8, and everything's fine, and it doesn't feel like it's earned. Whereas when you read the books, you feel like those things have finally been earned because you've gone through 200-300 pages of prose to get there. And it's just overstuffed. I will say that I feel like the series has done something that the books never did, which was make me care about Francesca, because I never had any kind of interest in that story at all.
Well, you're making a really good point. I feel like a lot of this takes away from some of the main story arcs. Who the hell is Lady Whistledown? I mean, that is huge in this season. It's going to be exposed who it is. Gosh. And it seems like even that got sidelined or just stayed kind of subdued compared to all of the other relationship drama that was happening. It's like, hold on, this is a huge reveal. And I mean, I went back, I rewatched it last night, and I watched, spoiler alert, Penelope's confession in front of the Ton and everyone else.
I hated that so much.
And it felt so lackluster.
Yeah.
It felt like it fell flat compared to everything else that was going on. And I don't know. Where does this go from here?
I think what the books did so well is that, unfortunately, the show, I think they didn't know if they'd get another season. They went ahead and revealed Penelope, but in the books, you don't find out until the middle of Colin and Penelope's story that Penelope is Lady Whistledown. So you've gone 3.5 books. I'm sorry. Hold on, guys.
Actually, hold on. I need to check something too. Courtney just responded in a group message I saw. I'm finally catching up on Bridgerton and just cackling at how every single member of the Bridgerton family is spiraling into drama and despair. And Benedict is just over here living his best bi-curious life, having a threesome.
Love it.
Hell yeah, he is. That's exactly right.
This is one of the things that I really struggled with the reveal of Penelope, not only as Lady Whistledown, but the big secret in keeping it from Colin is what she does to Colin and Marina in season 1. It's horrifying. Cool. It's very cruel, not only to Marina, but also Colin. She's also really mean about Eloise. I know there was reasoning behind it, but in the books, is she that cruel, or is it more just harmless gossip about everybody that's not really damaging lives?
Harmless gossip. She's never cruel. This Marina storyline doesn't ever happen. There's never Colin being in love with Marina. Marina is an ancillary character who is, spoiler alert, already dead by the time book 4 rolls around. So, and you never met her. You only heard about her because she plays a significant part in Eloise's story. But she is already, you never meet her, and she was not a Featherington cousin. So, but in the show, of course, they have to have some extra drama because, of course, Shonda Rhimes, right? And this is her production company, so there has to be an element of drama more than what a romance novel can provide. And so I think that's why they did that. Fine, but they made Penelope so cruel. I was kind of curious as to what they were going to do to rehab her, right? Because she was very, very cruel, and she really kind of destroyed some lives there. And so that never happened in the books. And it was really disappointing to see that that's where they went with it, because how are you going to make that person better and be, worthy of having a relationship with someone who she ruined his life? I mean, he was in love with Marina for all intents and purposes. And she broke that relationship purposefully and maliciously. So how do you fix that?
Maliciously.
Yes.
I don't like it. And I feel like they hand waved it when she's like, I just watched all of you and I wanted to live the life.
Yeah.
It's the Gossip Girl effect, right? It's like, I did shitty things to you guys for years, but I was hurting. I was in pain. So forgive me. And they're like, yeah.
Well, I think it's tough to swallow because of how quick the show has their timeline running versus what Mevhash was saying, which is there is a much longer period of time. I think that there is time for the character to grow and to understand that what she did was hurtful to specifically Colin and Eloise and her family. And this was one of my questions that was going to be posed to you guys later, and something that I picked up as I was watching the show again last night, which was I truly do believe that Penelope is remorseful for what she did. That is believable. Now, was there enough to build up for everyone to be like, oh my God, poor Penelope, you know, you know, what she went through. And I think even Colin almost has to bring it up. It's like, hey, you know, take some pity on her and consider how she grew up, what she's have to face, that she's always been the wallflower in the room. Can you imagine having to live with that? So even he, I think, has reached a point by that time in the storyline. And Mevhash, maybe you can give us some insight on the books to forgive her. I think it's tough because he wants her to just let it go, and she's not willing to let it go. And that's a different argument altogether. But I think he's forgiven her. She seems quite remorseful.
Which I would buy it if there was more time.
That's it.
Yeah, I think time is it's the theme, right? Like we need more time for these characters to actually process what's happening and then get to the point that they can get to forgiveness, right? So in the books, the way it plays out, this famous carriage scene that we have at the end of the first half of the show, that carriage scene actually in the book is Colin finding out about Penelope as Lady Whistledown, right? And so
wait,
we only
that
get
carriage scene? Like that carriage scene is when he finds out.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
interesting.
Does he find out before or after?
I'm assuming it's after, but I don't know.
So
do they get engaged?
So it's after. So yeah, so it is after he finds out, and so essentially what happens is he's going to visit her and he sees her going off in a carriage. They're already engaged at this point. She's gone to the feet out of Tom to put in a final whistle down because Cressida has already taken credit for being Lady Whistledown.
So the timeline on the show is all over the place.
Yes, the timeline's very, very different.
It's a mixed bag.
Colin follows her to the seedy part of town and discovers exactly what happened. And the way that she revealed herself to her publisher is not the same in the show. Like the show just shows her at the doorstep of the publisher's place and
with an Irish accent,
with an Irish accent, which I mean that was kind of cool because Nicola's Irish, so I was kind of glad they did that. But
yeah,
in the book, it was a little bit more cloak and dagger. She goes to this church on the other side of town and she puts the envelope in a Bible in a pew. And then she leaves it and she's already sent a note to the publisher who knows to come to that church to pick it up.
Cool.
But Colin follows her in another carriage because he's like, where is she going? And follows her into the church. And as she's leaving, she runs right into Colin. And they have a conversation and she realizes that she's in big trouble. And he reads it and he's like, what the hell? And they end up going into the carriage and they're having an argument in the carriage. And she's explaining why the reveal for Whistledown for him is second to the fact that she is calling out Cressida for not being Lady Whistledown. He's like, why the hell wouldn't you just let her take the credit? Because she's saving your ass, basically, right? Like, let her be it. Like, nobody likes her, and just let her take the credit, and it'll save your reputation. And she then reveals, she's like, I can't let her take credit for what I have done because she really sees that as her life's work. And that's when it connects to him that, oh, this is like very important to her. Like her writing is important to her. And then they resolve to not resolve anything in that moment, and they end up having the carriage scene.
Okay.
So the timeline's all over the place. Yeah, it's a little bit of a makeup, but also let's just table this for later, because he is already in love with her, and he has already told her he's in love with her. So the fact that she's Whistledown is not going to break him. He's going to stay with her no matter what. But now he's got to try to figure out how to fix it.
And that came across a bit in the show too. I didn't really feel like he was angry as much that she was Whistledown as he seemed, and they brought this up in the show a couple of times, that he seemed a bit jealous because of her writing and that she had this. And you know, because he brings it up, finally he lets it out. I can't remember who brought it up in the show, but I was like, hey, bing, ding, 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 ding. This seems to be a bigger issue for him. But I think we've seen that with a number of the Regency men over the past few episodes. It's like they get their feelings hurt about.
They're very sensitive.
Yes, they're a bit sensitive.
I love it. But,
you know, they're the patriarchy, right? They're part of the patriarchy, and they're not allowed to show their emotions. And so I think he was holding in his jealousy.
I do think that he loves Penelope. You know, he brings it up to his sister. She's like, why can't you, you know, move on with this? I have. And he's like, hey, well, you know, clearly you've never been in love.
Which says, I hope you never fall in love. He's like,
so it was a dig, you know, at her. And I kind of felt like that was a little unfair, but I do feel like he loves her. Of course, we didn't get the slow burn, the whole magnitude of their relationship over multiple books. But
yeah,
I do feel like, as I was watching the end of this, kind of wondering, like, how is this believable? I do believe that Penelope is quite remorseful.
I agree.
I do believe that Colin loves her. And I think that, you know, it's like, what a wonderful way to begin your marriage.
Yeah.
There's like all this drama.
Yeah.
So, you know, between the two of them, he's sleeping on the sofa. By the way, Mevhash, he says he's going to sleep on the sofa. I'm like, okay, first off, it's a settee.
You've already called it
chaise lounge. Right.
You've already, they've called it a chaise lounge. They've called it a settee. And then he called it a sofa last night. And I'm like, this is the Regency. They didn't have a sofa.
They didn't have a sofa.
I love when she comes out the next morning and she's like, how'd you sleep? It's literally on the settee.
Yeah. But, you know, talk about them making up. I want to get into our thoughts on the styling this season. And I'm going to start off with makeup across the board.
Nice.
Guys, I remember watching season 1 and looking at Phoebe Dynevor, who plays Daphne, and everyone in that show, but her especially. They had the no makeup, just beautiful skin, light touches. Everyone had their own eyelashes. I've gone back and watched. And this season stood out so strongly to me because, one, we've got Francesca's highlighter. It is just, you can see your reflection in this woman's face. It's so...
She was glowing in a bad way.
She's beautiful.
They were all glowing this season.
Except for Eloise, who didn't like her in the makeup room because her makeup was not as good as everybody else's. Eloise has always dressed a little, to me, they've put her in these outfits where you can tell she's like, I would rather be wearing like pants or something comfortable. And she's just like sticking it out because it's the time period. The ruffly jacket thing that they put her in that she had on for like 2 episodes, like, is she ever going to change? Her makeup was not that great. She looked more sallow. And maybe it's just in comparison to everybody else. They were like, we need highlighter. And Claudia Jessie maybe didn't. I don't know. But it stood out.
It probably went with the character a little bit.
Yeah.
Not the dress, but the makeup for sure. You know, she just doesn't want to be in the marriage march. She even says it in one of the episodes where she's like, I'd rather be riding a horse, not an actual horse.
Yeah, it's fair to say she's a bit of a tomboy.
And that's why I think they've done a good job in the past of like evoking that. This, to me, I don't know. But, and even Penelope, they had Nicola Coughlan in fake nails at one point. Like they were obvious a set.
Fake nails,
she had fake eyelashes. It was just, I really loved, and I can't.
The Jessica Rabbit hair at the end.
That's the thing. Her wig color changed a few times. One time it was like more of a lighter auburn, then it's like Jessica
fire red. Yeah.
She looked great, but it just was so all over the place.
It just didn't seem period appropriate.
And that's fine. It doesn't have to be period appropriate, but they just, It was
you
so
need to
weird.
stick closer to whatever line that you've drawn, and they've colored outside the lines.
Yes,
you can't just go off the rails, which I feel like they did in costuming and makeup and lighting and CGI and special effects.
Okay, I'm going to throw a question at everybody. I didn't prepare you.
Jenny does this.
I do this.
Uh-oh.
What is, in your opinion, the most unhinged outfit that occurred this season?
Oh, it had to have been the Featherington sisters or the mother. I can't remember who it was, but they had literally a screen printed.
That was Portia. That was the
fabric.
mom. Yeah.
That was the
Lady
mom.
Featherington.
How? For me, it was Cressida's hair bow. Like the bow made out of
the
hair.
The hair bow.
Okay, that was very unbelievable.
Who did she hurt? Like, why did they do that to that poor woman?
How much did that bow cost? I want to know. I want answers.
I was
gonna say, I think my unhinged is Cressida's pink outfit, where she's got the like pink shoulder pad.
Which one?
Yes. Oh gosh. And they had ridiculous styling before, but it weirdly is a combination this season of anachronistic and cheap.
It was like Dick Tracy.
So cheap.
Right? Remember Dick Tracy, where all the costumes were like over the top?
Yeah.
Just like accentuated shoulders and cuts. And, I mean, yes, this was a caricature of the Regency period. It almost seems like I don't
it was
know.
Weird.
It's very strange.
Yeah. In this case, I would say that the first two seasons that Chris Van Dusen did felt very much more in line with what we would consider Regency, maybe a little bit more hyper-colored, but it's still in line with what you would expect versus this season that just what happened? Like, it just didn't feel. You're right. It felt cheap. Like, some of the materials felt cheap. There's even a scene it's in the first half when Cressida ripped Penelope's dress and she's like, well, maybe if you bought like a more expensive material. I was like, are they actually like talking to us? Because I feel
what's happening?
These materials, the materials are so cheap. They just ripped her dress.
Isn't Penelope paying for her own dresses now and affording the best?
Oh,
yeah,
correct.
I just
should not have ripped.
It stood out, as you're saying, in a bad way. Whereas Dick Tracy, that's the intent.
The intent.
This was like, what?
Yeah.
It didn't seem as intense the first half of the first 4 episodes. You get to these back half and it's like,
Cindy Lou Who.
Fuck, that hair
Did
bow.
they
I forgot
spend too much money on the wigs for Queen Charlotte that they ran out of money for costuming for everybody else?
Listen, I will defend those wigs of Queen Charlotte. I love everything about that character.
Yeah,
Charlotte,
that was amazing.
Lady Danbury, Lady Bridgerton. These gals carry the show for me.
I think they're amazing. And the thing with Queen Charlotte, they've established that in season 1. She has the Marie Antoinette.
They had everything right with all of them. And I don't understand how it went so far off the rail for some of these other characters.
I don't know. And where's Lord Debling?
Lady Danbury killed it. Debling's gone. Debling's eating vegetables on a ship on his way to
the Northern Passage.
Greenland.
I liked that actor. He was great. And okay, again, Monday morning quarterback. If it were me, I would have had Cressida marry him, not that old guy. He probably would have taken Cressida anyway because he was like, I'm going to go travel and eat vegetables.
She didn't marry the old guy either.
I know, but
she didn't marry the old guy.
They completely flipped Cressida. They do, and you and I talked about this a little bit. I felt bad for Cressida after the first 4 episodes. I was like, oh man, she's gonna get sold to this old man. Maybe
really
she's
start building it up. Like they're gonna save this character, and you're gonna see kind of the nemesis become the friend, and everyone work together.
Love a redemption arc.
No,
I didn't need that. I didn't need a redemption arc for her, and that's only because of the book. Like, she always was kind of this vile person
so that was
from
my
the beginning. Yeah, I didn't need a redemption arc for her, and I was happy to see her go, and I hope she doesn't come back. Not the actress. I think the actress is great, and I think she did such a wonderful job, but the character itself, I have never liked the character, and the character was mean. If you want to talk about malicious, she was so malicious in the books. Totally. Just a horrible, horrible person. And I feel like sometimes a villain can just be a villain. Everybody doesn't have to be redeemed. And
what were they trying to do here?
Well, and that's why I guess without having the book knowledge, I felt like they were trying to make us feel bad for Cressida. And if you're going to do that, stick to it. Don't just either keep her a villain, like you're saying, Mevhash, Or, okay, we're going to do a redemption arc. She's going to turn. No, it was pointless. That is more time we could have spent instead of feeling bad for Cressida and seeing her and Eloise.
Sure.
We could have spent more time with Colin and Penn. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm glad.
And even Eloise was over Cressida at one point. She's like, Cressida, I just don't have time for this, and walks away. I mean,
gotta go. Okay, so in honor of Pride Month, I want to talk about some of those aspects.
Do we want to talk about Tilly and the situation?
Mr. Suarez?
Chocula?
Yeah.
I asked Mevhash last night. I said, hey, were these characters originally written in the books? And you're like, no. So my question was, why do we have them, other than to, I guess, emphasize Benedict and him being an artist, or the type of bohemian lifestyle that he is, I guess, kind of leaning in to lead. But I did like the way that they handled the discussion between Tilly and Benedict and the situation with Mr. Suarez.
Yeah.
I thought that it was very mature.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, that's great, but you also live in a society, and I understand this is a fictional version of the Regency, but you also live in a period where you're not going to be accepted by anyone else besides Tilly and Mr. Suarez and the group of folks underground that are hanging out.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they move that story forward, because while I really love how they, just like you said, Ryan, how they had that conversation and how he really, he almost looked happier with Mr. Suarez than he did with Philly at one point. But like,
he did seem rather down when he was like, oh, is Mr. Suarez going to be joining us this evening? She's like, no, I thought maybe it'd just be us. And he's like,
right. It's like,
well, should we invite someone else?
Like,
so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out going forward.
Me too.
Because especially in that time period, those things were done behind closed doors, and oftentimes so those gentlemen and even gentlewomen were married, and then there was a marriage of convenience, and then they would have somebody on the side that they actually were in a relationship with.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe that's what we're going to get. That's my question, is how are they going to handle that? And as we know, it's Regency flipped. We have a mixed race society.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case back then. We have screen printed dresses. That wasn't the case back then. But
Not
how are they? I mean, I don't know. I think it's all well and good, but is he going to go to Violet and say, Mama, meet my boyfriend and my girlfriend?
Yeah, and I think there's going to be
a that a happily ever after for him? I mean, is that truly happily ever after if we have to keep one person in the closet or behind closed doors?
That's how I wonder how they're going to handle it. Yeah, I don't know.
I really enjoyed how they introduced these characters for Benedict.
Yeah,
and it's nice to have something else to as far as like a relationship to look at with main characters in a show like this than the traditional what we've seen in Bridgerton for the past few episodes, which has been a lot of hey, you gotta be a gentleman, and you gotta go to the balls, and you gotta get married, and you gotta follow the rules of the time.
Right.
Anyway, I liked it.
Well, I will say that Benedict and Francesca, both their stories and where they end up at the end of those stories kind of lend themselves to being more queer characters, because even with Benedict, because his love interest is a for lack of a better term, a bastard child, she is an illegitimate child, and people believe that maybe her father was nobility, but nobody could really follow her lineage. It was like Benedict was with somebody who was quote unquote below his station. At the end of that book, they end up kind of retiring to the country and don't spend a lot of time in society. And it's kind of the same with Francesca, because Francesca marries Lord Kilmerton and they move to Scotland and they live away. And you don't see Francesca in the books because she doesn't interact with London society pretty much at all. And she only comes back after, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, the death of her husband. And then but she spends a lot of time in Scotland, and that's when she connects with, again, spoiler alert, her husband's cousin, Michael Sterling, who in the show has been changed to Michaela.
Michaela.
What a twist.
I like it, but again, how are they going to reconcile this in society?
I think I was confused at first when we had the scene. This is like the last scene of the show, right?
Yeah.
Where we have the introduction of the cousin. Mm-hmm. And there's Eloise there, there's Francesca, and there's there's Lord Kilmartin. And at first I thought this was a moment between Eloise and Lord Kilmartin's cousin until they zoomed in on the face of Francesca. And I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Wait. Hold on.
Yeah. I had known just because you had told me.
I had not known
that she falls in love with a Michael Sterling after the fact. And when I heard my cousin Michaela, I was like, oh, okay. Here's what we're doing.
But did you notice that when she married Lord Kilmartin and you get to the kiss the bride part and they kiss, did you notice?
He gives her a peck.
Her face. And did you notice her face? Her face.
Yes, she was like, I don't. This is another thing I wrote that I don't like. The first 4 episodes, their romance is sweet. Mm-hmm. And she is interested. Remember the scene with Violet and they're on the street and she's like so excited to talk to him and he's kind of like aloof and he's got to go and she gets so beside herself. And then they completely flipped it. Right. They should have stuck to maybe her starting the romance with Kilmartin, but being more resigned. And so the reaction to the kiss might have made more sense. Or if she would have been looking a bit more confused after the kiss. It was too jarring for me because it goes from this girl who's like very interested in him and wants to marry him. And then what?
To all of a sudden being engaged and we're going to get married like tomorrow.
That was it. That's a whole,
The pacing felt very off. And then the characterization also felt like it flip-flopped.
Okay. So this is the first time Bridgerton had split the season up. And I think they knew that the back half was Mickey Mouse production cobbled together kind of stuff because the PR for the first 4 and the in between the break was just, they were hitting us and they were getting us invested. I think they ended the first 4 episodes with the carriage scene to be like, oh, okay, we're here. Let's do this. And they're like, we're going to get you. You're going to be so interested. Gotcha.
And then they just threw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall.
Because if they would have dropped all 8 of those episodes, people would have been like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. I think.
Was there a break in filming? Like, what happened? Was there like something going on? The writer's strike wouldn't have affected this. They've been filming for a while.
There was a lot of reshoots, which something is amiss.
Yeah, you noted something.
There were wigs
that Colin was wearing.
There are same scenes sometimes where Luke Newton, you see his hair, 3 seconds later he's in a wig. I don't understand what I don't get it. I don't know what they were doing. But
I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened. And I love Bridgerton. You introduced me to the first season. Regé Jean Page, if you're listening, I know you're not, but if you're listening,
okay.
Hi, hello.
Please come talk to us.
I loved season 1 so much. My girls like to listen to the Vitamin String Quartet and all the other orchestral pop song versions from all the seasons. It was so fresh. It was the acting was good. The writing was good. The music was good. Costuming, sets, colorization. Season 2, we do not have time to get into that. Not so great.
Yeah.
But I still was invested. And now watching this season, I'm like, I'm going into season 4 with a big side eye. Like, what are you guys going to do here?
I sent you guys my notes from season 2 because I had a long dissertation about why I had issues with season 2. And yet, you saw at the end of my notes, I was still optimistic for season 3. Right. And they got me with the first half. They got me. And then the second half, I'm like, what? You got me, guys, because you tricked me and you switched it all up. And now it's been bamboozled. And now season 4, I don't know what's going to happen. Of course, we're not going to get season 4 until 2026. So if they don't come in strong with season 4.
Oh my God, how old are these kids going to be?
It's the Stranger Things effect.
Right.
Lord.
You know what? They need to pull a Justin Timberlake in an NSYNC reunion style. If Regé Jean Page comes back to season 4, I don't care what the fucking storyline is. I'm watching it. He joins the circus. I'm in. He can be the strong
the
man.
Duke comes in to help Colin run the Featherington estate because Colin doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I'm here for it.
Colin in his pirate shirts.
God, those fucking pirate shirts.
Okay.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of questions for you guys.
Before we sign off.
Before we start wrapping it up, I've got some questions, and I just want to go through here, and we can just kind of banter and talk about them a little bit. I love Lady Bridgerton, and what is it? What's his name? Is his name
Marcus Anderson?
Anderson?
Lord Anderson.
Is he a Lord?
Anderson? I don't know.
I think he's Lord Anderson. Marcus Anderson. Marcus is his name.
He must be because he's the boy. So out of the family, he would have inherited whatever Danbury. He's probably Lord.
That's right.
Lord Anderson.
Okay. I'm excited about his energy. First off, he seems like a very capable actor in this show. And he's good looking. And I think that it's exactly what Lady Bridgerton needs in her life. And I think that she's going to get the blessing. Well, she already has the blessing from Lady Danbury. If she has a blessing of Lady Danbury, I know she's going to have the blessing of Queen Charlotte. So if she wanted to remarry, if she wanted to have a relationship with someone else, do you think that this is going to be allowed? I don't know.
Allowed? Oh,
is it in the books?
It's not in the books. Lord Anderson, it doesn't exist. But I know she did write a short story about Violet having her garden tended.
Good for her.
So, but I think at the time, in that short story, he was a doctor maybe. So he wasn't even of like nobility. He was, So I think it's possible. And I think that that's great because I do love that actress and that character. And I think a lot of people who've read the books have always asked that Violet get her own story because she wanted love for her children so badly, but she kind of diminished her own need to find that love for her kid. So I think it would be great if she has her own story.
This is what's exciting about the future for me as the season slowly began to wrap up, or hastily began to wrap up at the end.
Wish it was slowly.
I thought, okay, cool. So Colin's going to be busy. We know that with Penelope. They're married.
Have a child now.
We've got Lord Bridgerton. We have Anthony and Kate who are married and away. We have Francesca and Eloise both now moving to Scotland. We have Benedict, who's going to be a bit busy himself, not planning on getting married anytime soon. So this is really going to, Lady Bridgerton, I think, is going to be an empty nester. Is there anyone else who's left?
Oh, Hyacinth and Gregory.
There's Gregory and Hyacinth.
Gregory. Have we even met these characters yet?
Yes. Hyacinth's the girl.
Gregory's going away to school, though.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He's about to be eaten then.
Remember? Yeah. With his top hat.
Okay.
So she'll have Hyacinth, who I guess by the time we get the next season, Hyacinth's probably going to make her debut.
But she's not going to have anyone who's going to be, coming out into the world of the Ton over the next couple of years.
I think Hyacinth is next. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's in 2026.
So
maybe
I think Hyacinth will be interesting. Hyacinth's story is with Lady Danbury's grandson.
Ooh.
Oh, hell yeah.
Who do we think is going to play Hyacinth? Do you think they'll keep the same actress?
I think so.
I think they will. Because she can be young, right? And I think that actress is, by the time we get the Hyacinth, even if it's like season 5, she'll be well into her 20s at that point.
And I feel like, did anyone read why they replaced Francesca's actor? Was it a scheduling thing or?
I think they wanted to age her up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, could you imagine being the one who played Francesca the past few seasons? Like, you're getting ready for your big arc and they're like, hey, it's been fun.
Come on the podcast.
Please exit stage.
Love to talk to you.
Okay. Lady Danbury and the Queen have this beautiful scene while they're playing chess together. And I think this is a wonderful moment where she, I guess, convinces the Queen, it might behoove you to not out Lady Whistledown, or at least not hold her accountable when we could kind of keep playing this game. Which I thought was this beautiful scene between friends, and also kind of encouraging her to hey, you don't have to take this so seriously. And I think the Queen hadn't really thought about that. I think the Queen was more, kind of the cat and mouse, more exciting just to catch the mouse than to actually figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
But what are they going to do now that she's been revealed?
Well, that's the question. So it seems like the queen's like, well, we'll see. Penelope's like on thin ice. But I like how Lady Danbury's character really shines in the last episode with the scene with the queen where they're playing chess and talking about the Bridgertons and how protective she is of them. And then later with Lady Danbury and Lady Bridgerton when they're having a glass of scotch, which I thought was very sweet. And they're talking about the girls moving to Scotland, and then they're talking about her brother and how she's given permission and that she seems okay with it. And she finally asked her what we're all wondering, which is whether or not Lady Bridgerton knew about Lady Danbury and her father. And I thought it was such a sweet moment between these two characters when she essentially, Lady Bridgerton says, you know, I know that your love for my father and friendship was very special to him. And I thought that was just like chef's kiss of a moment.
So, yeah, I think that was probably the things I was going to bring up as one of my favorite things of this season. No, was just that scene was so beautiful. Yeah. Those actors are so good. And that gives me hope for season 4 that maybe they'll turn it around and use the good that they have. And that's going to be in the forefront instead of some of this wibbly wobbly stuff we were talking about.
And if they learned anything, just make Lady Danbury the main character.
That's it.
She's amazing.
Season 4, Lady Danbury's love story.
Yeah.
Right. All right. I think we did it.
Can I just add one thing?
Please.
When the Mondrishes have their ball.
Oh gosh.
And first of all, that whole subplot was useless. I didn't need it. Honestly, I really didn't need it.
And I love those actors. No offense to them or that kid, but why did we need that? It took valuable time away.
If they had nixed them, if they had nixed the Cressida whatever story, we would have had more time for Colin and Penelope. But we had to see the Mondriches putting together a ball, their son learning what the forks and knives are. And then when the queen walks into the ball and there's that weird centerpiece in the middle of the ballroom, and then they're like, wait, and then they open it, and then it's like one of those paper peacock. It looked like one of those cards that are 3-dimensional, and I'm like, what
is not good?
Am I supposed to be impressed with this?
I'm like, is this going to Hulu?
The queen wasn't.
The queen was us this back half of the season. Am I supposed to be impressed with this?
Absolutely. I love it. I love the queen.
I do too.
So we end with Penelope giving one last, I guess, Lady Whistledown text, which was, goodbye. Basically a very short and sweet. Goodbye. And then transition into her own. Okay. Question for the both of you.
Okay.
How does she continue writing? Obviously she's gonna have to switch gears because now that she's outed as Lady Whistledown, she's not gonna have the same sort of information or same sort of cover that she had before. So what's the future for Penelope and writing? That's gonna keep the queen's interest, because remember, the queen's interested in gossip. This is a trial to see if this is gonna work out.
Oh, I have thought about this.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be like Gossip Girl. People are going to submit gossip to her. And because everyone enjoys the Lady Whistledown papers, she can't be all cloak and dagger anymore and like get her information by being there. I think she's going to come back out. It's going to be people who are telling her things now because they want it to be in Lady Whistledown.
Hey, Upper Regency.
She's going to be Regency Dumois.
XOXO.
She's a Regency Dumois. Yes. Yeah. XOXO. Whistledown.
I like that. In the books, she gives up Whistledown and actually just starts writing novels. And I would like to I would kind of like to see Jen's version. Honestly, I think that would be great, because then we would still get the narration from Julie Andrews, which we love. And it would still have Penelope, and she could still be talking to maids and butlers and have that kind of, because all those people, they know all the secrets.
Right. Oh, yeah. Dorota. Doretta was my number one pick.
We cannot get into the weeds on how they fucked up Gossip Girl's Dan Humphrey.
I did see a beautiful meme yesterday, and it was basically saying, Dan Humphrey had nothing on Penelope feathering. Just fantastic. I'll share it.
Yeah.
I'll share it on our Instagram.
As much as I do want to see Penelope write novels, maybe she'll do that too. But Netflix, they're going to need the drama going. They're going to need, maybe that's part of next season. What if Penelope is writing novels, but someone else is taking up the Whistledown mantle, and it's going to be the mystery of who is it? Can't be Cressida because she's in Wales.
Who is it?
It's going to be Eloise.
I'm not super hopeful for next season or for the future seasons of Bridgerton after watching this last season. I am invested in some of these characters, so I will be curious as to how they move forward. Obviously, anything that Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury and Lady Bridgerton are in, I'm going to be interested in watching. But I don't know how they come back from this, especially if production value is going to continue to head in the direction that it's heading. Costuming is going in the way that it's going. The actual character arcs or the character development just kind of falling flat or being non-existent. So what are your thoughts, Mevhash? Where do you think the series goes from here, and how interested or invested are you in watching it?
Well, I am always going to have some form of investment with Bridgerton just because of my long history with it. And I know Julia Quinn she did sell the rights to the books to Shonda's production company, but they are very cognizant of the stories and do ask for her permission when they make, huge changes, right? When they revealed Penelope, when they've changed the gender of Francesca's next love interest. She's given her blessing to all these things. And I respect Julia Quinn a lot. I think she is such a interesting, compassionate person, and I've just loved her on a personal level for a very, very long time. So I will still support the show. I am not as optimistic as 2022 Mevhash was after season 2. Season 3 was a little bit of a bummer on the second half, and I'm sad that it didn't reach my expectations. But I hope, and I think I still have hope, that they could pivot and make some changes in season 4. They've got some time. They've already told us that we're not getting another season next year. So they've got a couple of years to maybe fix some of these things. And we're not the only ones saying that the costuming seems off, that the characterization seems off. I would like to see Netflix give them a couple more episodes. I mean, Netflix is a juggernaut. How can they not give them even 2 more episodes to allow for a little bit more space? It just doesn't make sense to me that one of their biggest shows on the network, why aren't you giving them 10 episodes? I don't need 22 episodes. I don't need that. But I need 10 or 11 episodes would be great.
I agree. Okay.
I concur.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Mevhash. We love you so much.
Guys.
And this has been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Where can people find you?
A couple of years ago, I did start in an Instagram, a public Instagram, a bookstagram, if you will. And I talk about the books that I am reading. Lately, I haven't been doing as much just because my life has been very full. I have 3 young children that take up quite a bit of time and a day job that requires me to work sometimes very late. So my book reading has not been as active, but I do get on there to support authors that I really love. I like to get on there and support podcasts that I love. And I have a friend who started writing during COVID. And so I get on there for sure when she's about to release the book and talk about what's coming and then what I'm reading. So if you want to follow me, that would be awesome. Pasty.o, Instagram.
Okay.
Well, if you're a reader and you're interested, please follow Mevhash.
Please do.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for coming on. Thanks for being our first guest.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you.
Guys. This was so much fun.
Yay. All right. We'll see you later.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, that was amazing.
It was great.
Our first guest. It was a lot of fun.
Exciting, yeah.
Yeah. And someone that we both really, really love. So
love having that perspective, that background on Bridgerton, on a show that was based upon a set of books or a series of books that I've not read, but
me either.
I do enjoy the show, or did.
Oh boy. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Well, Jenny, what else are we into this week?
So I am into a book by Casey McQuiston called One Last Stop. Now, Casey McQuiston is probably most famous for her book Red, White, and Royal Blue.
I love that book.
Love the book. And I loved the Amazon adaptation.
That was fun.
It was camp. Uma Thurman's
accent.
So good. So this book I got at, where did I buy this? Oh, I think I got it at the bookstore in Seattle one day, and I just blew through it. It's really good. It's about a character named August who moves to New York City. She moves into a little flat in Brooklyn with some interesting characters. And one day while she's taking the train to her college, she meets a mysterious woman named Jane who's dressed like a 70s punk. And she keeps running into her in the same car at the same time. And spoiler alert for this book, if you want to read it, you don't want to be spoiled, maybe skip ahead. Jane is displaced in time. She's actually from the 70s.
Whoa.
And she gets stuck on this train car. Okay. Yeah. And so they have to figure out how to get her back to her own time or how to keep her here because she can't exit the train.
She's still wearing the same clothes?
Still wearing the same clothes. She's stuck on the train in the same car, same outfit. She cannot leave the train.
She's been stuck on the train since the 70s?
Yes.
So she's witnessed a lot.
Yeah. And
she's met a lot of people.
Met a lot of people. There's these cool things.
Does she eat on the train? I'm sorry.
Well, they don't really get into like if she's yeah, no. This is a question I asked.
Picking it apart.
So when August brings her food, she eats it and loves it, but she hasn't really needed to eat or go to the bathroom or drink or do anything because she's kind of ghosty, I guess. But then when she meets August, she gets more grounded into reality. She doesn't even really understand that she's been stuck for the whole time. I'm not doing a good job of explaining it. It's a great book. And it's a perfect Pride Month read. You know, it's a female-female relationship.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, lots of queer characters in the book. And Casey McQuiston's writing is just so sharp and funny. And I loved it. So yeah, One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, wherever you get books now. I mean, she's a good writer. She's just a really good writer. And to kind of circle back to our Bridgerton conversation, good writers can put you in a story no matter what.
Right.
Anyway, Brian, what are you into this week?
I have binged the entire series of Hacks on HBO. I think there's 3 seasons.
Yeah. Oh, Jean Smart. Come on.
Jean Smart, Hannah Einbinder, Jane Addams. I mean, there's just a number of people who appear in this series. Christopher McDonald. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh, that guy. He was like he's been in everything.
He's been in like so much.
He's the villain in Happy Gilmore.
Yes. Yeah. He's a great character actor.
Okay.
So, Jean Smart plays a wonderful comedian who's had a long-standing gig as a Las Vegas show like comedian. Like she's had this show at a Las Vegas casino for like 30, 40 years. She was on the top of her game. She came up, she's a boomer, so she came up at a time where comedy was really raunchy, where it wasn't very PC.
Oh, okay.
She this character had a TV sitcom with her husband, who was also like a huge industry person at the time. Their marriage ended up falling apart. It was very public at the time. She was supposed to host The Tonight Show. She was supposed to host the Late Show.
Oh.
And the rug was pulled out from under her in the 70s, and she's been at the Las Vegas Strip ever since. And so she finds herself kind of at this crossroads in her career where even though she's beloved, she's made a fortune for herself. Playing shows in Vegas for the past number of years. She's built this life that she's very accustomed to. She has assistants. She's on QVC. She's really monopolized herself and being able to build this beautiful business and this wonderful life as a strong, independent female comedian. And she finds herself now losing her spot at the casino.
Oh, no.
A casino that has been her home for decades. She's a very smart woman. And so she leverages everything that she's built in order to stay at the top, to maintain her place at the casino in Vegas. And at the same time, her agent has sent her a young writer whose name is Ava Daniels, who's played by Hannah Einbinder, who's kind of on the out. She's basically been canceled because of a tweet. And
Jean Smart has, or Ava?
No, Ava has.
Okay.
So you have these 2 women who are kind of at a crossroads in their career. One of them's been canceled for social media content. The other one's been canceled just because she's older and and it's going to be replaced by something new. And so the agent sees something in the two of these women, puts them together, and it starts off with this terrible relationship. Like this is a enemies to friends and so much more story. The writing in here is top notch.
Okay.
This is great television. This is a fantastic series. This is in my top 3 HBO all-time series. Jean Smart is an incredible actress. Hannah Einbinder, an incredible actress. The way that the show is written, the comedy being blended in with real life drama. This isn't make believe. These are real scenarios that women in the workforce, as well as comedians, as well as just young people trying to find their way in life, living in LA, living in Vegas. It's just a beautiful series. I highly recommend it. If you want something that is literally going to make you gut laugh out loud and also make you cry, this series is for you. HBO Hacks.
Love it.
Stream it now.
All right. So we got One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston and Hacks on HBO starring Jean Smart.
It's a beautiful story, and you're going to love the way that it goes.
Oh, can't wait.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Something. What is
Madam, here we go.
Unhinged this week?
Don't be so quick to
walk away.
Drive away.
Oh, God, yeah.
Justin
You need
Timberlake.
to get an Uber, baby. Old JT.
JT's back in the news.
JT,
and
yes.
not for any good reasons.
No. So a couple days ago, Justin Timberlake was arrested in Sag Harbor, New York.
Yeah. The Hamptons.
The Hamptons. Right? Yes, the Hamptons. For a DWI.
Yeah.
And disclaimer, we are not trying to make light of anybody who has alcohol issues or driving while intoxicated. People die that way.
Sure.
You kill other people that way. We're not trying to make light of that. What we are going to talk about is how unhinged the internet has become in the wake of this news. Sure. And also just his behavior.
overall.
Release the body cam footage. I need to see.
We want to see it. I want to know how much of this is true and how much of this is TMZ, like rumor mill. But it's apparent, allegedly, that during his traffic stop, that the young officer who pulled him over,
Gen Z,
we're being told, Gen Z, 22 years old, did not recognize Mr. Timberlake. And when JT said, well, this is going to ruin the world tour, or this is going to delay the world tour, whatever he said.
He said this is going to ruin the, allegedly.
Ruin the tour. And I was like, what tour? He's like, the world tour. And I just can't imagine being an artist of a certain age and a certain point in your career when you were sitting on top of the world, kind of being in this position now, and how it must feel. I mean, it can't feel good. Again, we're not trying to make light of a serious situation in someone's life. If he needs help, he should probably seek, assistance for that. But in this scenario, given what we know about JT,
it's not been a good run for JT recently. Britney Spears released her memoir.
Did she ever?
In October of last year. And it was not flattering for him.
No.
I mean, it revealed, his treatment of her, but also some other unhinged kind of cringy things with him. The way he was, it seemed to me, appropriating Black culture. And
has he apologized?
I believe.
Did he release a statement after the book? I
believe
recall.
he did. It was just like, I do apologize for anyone that I've hurt. I don't know if he addressed her directly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We'll have to check on that. But that didn't make him look good.
No.
And then NSYNC kind of had their quasi reunion
around the same time.
Where they did a song for the new Trolls movie band together. And you saw me at this time period losing my mind. My girlfriends and I were like, what does it cost? We'll divorce our spouses if they don't want us to pay for these tickets. We're going to go see NSYNC. Like, this is our moment. And then it just fizzled away. And year before that, there were some compromising photos of him with another woman who's not his wife. It's just been not a hot time for old JT. I firmly believe an NSYNC concert and or limited run at the Sphere is on the docket now. He needs a rehab. Oh, that's the other thing. This world tour, the ticket sales are abysmal. That video of him dancing.
Is it his world tour?
Yes,
or is
it's
it
his
NSYNC?
new. No,
Okay,
he's
so
on a
it's
world
just him.
tour for his new album that I
has
couldn't.
A new album?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You know, once upon a time, I was a big Justin Timberlake fan. This is the time that he was dating Britney.
Did you tell?
Around the time of the breakup. Cry Me a River, great video.
It's a great
no
video.
Argument.
I do like that song too.
That entire album was fantastic. And the album that came out just before that, and I think the album came out just after that, were great. He was sitting on the top of the world. I thought he was going to be the next MJ.
Everybody did. He could dance.
He could
sing.
Dance. He could sing. He understood the industry. You know,
I didn't like the whole Janet Jackson of it all, but we can't get into all of that.
No. Well,
he threw her under the bus. But did you talk to our good friend Callie about this? Sorry. Detective Kondo, our good friend, who says that the best day of her life was sitting second row at a Justin Timberlake concert, higher up than her marriage, the day she got married, or the birth of her children. I think.
I mean, we all have our things that do it for us.
Listen, but yeah, I didn't know you were a JT fan.
I was back in the day. I'm no longer.
Hey, we all were. Everybody was bopping to Cry Me a River. You wanted to sing that to your ex who had done you wrong. So, I mean, I did. I was like jamming it.
I'm pretty sure it was like up on my MySpace for a while.
MySpace was so unhinged.
Get me to bed,
Grandpa. People listening are like, what's MySpace? Now they're probably, everybody, you know what MySpace is. I loved his, do you remember the song My Love where T.I. had a verse?
Maybe.
It's like, ain't another woman that could take your spot, my love.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that song. Yeah. My love. Yeah. Anyway.
What was the one? Is this Cry Me a River? It's like, you spent your nights alone and he never comes home. And all you get's a busy tone. I heard you found out what he's doing to you.
That you did to me. Yeah, that's Cry Me a River. Yeah.
And that guy in the background was like, yep. Yep. Yep.
I think that was Timbaland.
Was it Timbaland?
I think it's Timbaland. Yeah.
Timbaland.
Timbaland kind of had a DJ Khaled vibe back in the day, you know, because DJ Khaled's all in the background going, DJ Khaled.
Yeah. He's watching the video. Justin's like, yep. Yep. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think
Unhinged.
Justin, if you're listening, I hope you're okay. I don't buy that he had one martini. I know we had this conversation in our group message.
That is not a one martini face.
No.
You know me.
I know you.
I love a martini.
You do.
And I can have, there's been an occasion where I've had a really good martini. Usually it's like a Mexican martini and it's served in like a fucking glass from Trudy's.
Right.
Or Mi Casina margarita.
Mambo Taxi.
Mambo Taxi.
Yeah.
Sponsor us, Mi Casina. But that was not a one. I think he must have been on an edible or some other drugs.
I know.
Live your life. We're not yucking anyone's yum, but don't put yourself and other people in danger.
Be safe.
Be safe when you get behind the wheel. You can Uber anywhere. You can afford a driver, sir. So
that's the thing.
I'm really sorry that this scenario went the way that it did for everyone.
And also, if you're don't do the "do you know who I am" kind of stuff. It's so cringy.
Right.
Yeah. The memes though that have come out of this
get
just
ready. They're just starting.
I love the internet. When it's this internet, I love this internet. I love the memes. I mean, even our group message, all of us were firing off stuff. Did you see that clip that came out where he won like what were they called? The MTV Awards, the Moon Man? Yeah, and he's like telling Britney to stop drinking. Like, well,
what goes around comes around.
What goes back around, goes around, comes all the way back around. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're unhinged.
We did it though.
Thank you to Mevhash for coming on and joining us for our first special guest.
Yes.
For her insight into the world of Bridgerton.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for listening to Once More Unhinged. These episodes come out on Wednesdays. And be sure to check out our latest episode of Once More, a Rewatch podcast, which come out every Friday.
Yeah, we're on Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 2. Would love for you to join us over there.
For more Unhinged content, please follow us on all of the socials. We are at Once More Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and we are at the Once More Pod on X.
Oh, yeah.
Unhinged is produced by us. I'm Ryan something.
And I'm Jen Katz. And dear gentle listeners, we'll see you later.